Everybody ready to get this started? Am I close enough to the microphone? Yes, the Arnts are in the house tonight. There you go. We're going to let people file on in. There we go. One of our council members. Our standby usher right over here says that there's a few seats right over here for anybody that would like to sit down. Got a couple over here too. Yes, Greg Kimsey. I would be the person that would want to sit by you. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2025 State of the City Address. I am going to be introducing our mayor. And before I do, what I'd like to do is just take us back a little bit and talk about two things. I'd like to talk about leadership by example and servant leadership. I've been working with this mayor for well over 10 years. And what I have seen is leadership by example. I'm talking about, remember that meeting where you're with your kids and you're saying, who's going to be the team coach? Who's going to be the leader of the Boy Scout troop? And then one hand slowly goes up. She did it. When you're talking about neighborhood associations and you're looking for somebody to lead, this is the part where you join in as well. She did it. When you're talking about transportation projects that are affecting your neighborhood and how you can make it better, and putting in the time to make the west side of 4th Plain something that is navigable, walkable, has bike lanes and everything, she did it. When you're talking about stepping up and wanting to be on the Planning Commission, which Planning Commission and school board reps have a special place in my heart, okay? That job is volunteer, and they are really putting it in there. She did. When we're talking about running for office, running for city council, which we all know is so easy to do. No, it is not. It is hard, hard work. She did. When it comes to being the first woman mayor in the city of Vancouver, she did it. Yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear it. That, ladies and gentlemen, is leadership by example. Now, I also want to talk about servant leadership, because there are times you got to get your hands dirty. There are times that you have to go out there and make a difference in your community and wear your overalls and get it done. I'm talking about times where we get emails saying that there's trash all up and down the high-five, the freeway's a mess. And we could look at them and go, not our bag, not our responsibility. But somebody goes out and cleans up a part from 39th Street all the way down to 4th Plain on the freeway. She did it. When I'm talking about going up and painting over graffiti in our community, she did it. When I'm talking about when we're going through COVID and nobody can get out there and clean up some of the camps that have just gotten completely out of control, she did it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why I support our mayor. Hopefully this is why you support your mayor. It's taking servant leadership and leadership by example, putting it together, and that's why we have Mayor Anne McEnerny-Ogle. Mayor, come on up. I wrote that.
And I'll pay you back with that caramel apple pie. Thank you. Wow. Thank you, Bart. That was lovely. Oh, goodness. Oh. Good evening. Thank you for spending your evening with us. I know it's a little humid. It's not what we expected. We tried to turn on fans and open doors and everything else, but this is always the wonderful time to meet with you and extend our welcome to you. And I know we have people online, so thank you for choosing your evening with us. I'd like to recognize our counselors, Bart Hansen, Kim Harless, Diana Perez are with us this evening. Mayor Pro Tem Eric Paulson, Ty Stober, and Sarah Fox could not be with us, but we're so grateful for the commitment and caring and experience of all of our council members and how they're helping us. We have a number of individuals who are also with us this evening representing our Senator Cantwell, Tanisha Harris. Wave to us, Tanisha. You're somewhere in here, way in the back. And Len Harrington for Senator Murray's office. Thank you very much. And we have Eric LeBrant and Jack Berkman from the port are in the middle somewhere. There you go. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Dr. Karen Edwards from Clark College. Karen, right here. Thank you for coming on over to this side of the world. From our county, we have Will Fuentes and Glenn Young. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. And then we have the famous Neil Kimsey. Neil, where art thou? Would you please stand? This gentleman is in his 90s and still serves as a solid waste commissioner. Let's give him a hand. And of course, he's the father of the wonderful Greg Kimsey, our auditor. Thank you, Scott. Did I miss any of the other electeds that popped in here? I got Berkman. Okay, thank you. Thank you so very much. So I hope you enjoyed a little bite to eat out there. After we talk a little bit and see a couple videos, we'll split up and go into a community forum. But as we gather tonight, I wanted to remind you of all of our work that we were working on in 2024 and the excited opportunities ahead for our community in 2025 and beyond. So last year was marked by significant changes and transitions, and at this time, we've hired our new city manager, Lon Puckon. Lon, please stand. And Troy Price, our new police chief, way in the back. I told Troy that he was going to have to stand up and be recognized as the new police chief. So what did he do? He took the last seat in the last row next to the door. We have other officers and all sorts of folks with us this evening, and we're excited to share some news. We balanced a difficult budget, navigated challenges, and embraced new opportunities, and through it all, we built on what came before, but we also laid the groundwork for our future. We share this journey, and we share the work moving forward. It's a collective effort between the community and the city, and we don't take that for granted or lightly. We can't do our work without you. Your input, ideas, expertise, and yes, even the critiques that you give us are vital to our work. And you've told us what is important, whether it's through emails and phone calls and social media. You come to testify at city council meetings and at different public hearings. You fill out community forums and surveys. You serve on commissions, boards, and committees. And we have had countless conversations over coffee, different meetings, and some of you even actually write us a letter, put a stamp on it, and mail it to us. We have received over 6,000 responses to project surveys and met with many residents at our community forums and other meetings. We've conducted over 40 engagement projects on various issues, including our complete streets, on parks, the comprehensive plan, economic development, climate change, homelessness, parking, and more and more and more. When reflecting on all of these connections and points of contact, one consistent theme stands out for 2024. Your unwavering hope for the things that foster our community's quality of life, your desire for local government to problem solve, to collaborate, and to advance the priorities that directly contribute to Vancouver's livability. Livability. In the past year, we've continued to prioritize and invest in the issues that you identified as crucial. Community priorities have remained consistent over the last few years. These issues always rise to the top of the list. They tend to be the most difficult ones, and they're not solved overnight. That's why they continue to be there for us. Homelessness, community safety, affordable housing, the local economy, those are all very intricately interwoven into relationships with different partners, with the county, with different cities, our connections. funding mechanisms with the state and the federal government, community needs, all of the interests, they all require thoughtful and deliberate solutions and collaboration to ensure those lasting progress. We don't want to make the mistakes. We need to do it right once. Over the last year, with Council's leadership, the expertise of city staff, and the community's considerable involvement and input, we have made progress toward our shared priorities. So let's talk about safety. I know there is uncertainty and even fear in our community right now. We've been meeting with community partners to discuss how we can collaborate on supporting community safety and belonging. We want everyone in Vancouver to feel safe, supported, and welcome in our community. We've received calls and emails about what the city will do when faced with decisions and policies being made at the federal level, particularly around immigration-related executive orders. It's been a part of our policy for the last 8 years, so I'll say it again tonight for everyone to hear. The Vancouver Police Department will not undertake immigration-related investigations or sweeps, and will not ask about immigration status. Officers will not contact, detain, or arrest an individual solely for a suspected violation of immigration laws. Despite what happens outside of Vancouver, we will continue to serve all community members with dignity, empathy, and compassion, regardless of their status. In our ongoing efforts to ensure safety and the well-being of everyone in our community, last year we asked voters to consider Proposition 4. It was a levy to help fund public services. And while the levy failed by a slim margin, the community safety priority remains at the top of the list. And challenges facing how we provide those police services remain. Vancouver is still the second lowest staffed police department among the Washington cities that have 100,000 in population and higher. The demand for police services continues to grow as our population grows, and calls for service continue to be increasingly complex. It requires multiple officers for extended time, and that diverts police services from other parts of the city. In addition to speaking with your votes, you also gave us a lot of feedback about the proposition's complexity, the cost, and what you would be willing to support. You told us that you wanted to see more coordination with our partners in our local justice system. So we heard you. And since the election, the city has been meeting with our partners to discuss regional law enforcement and court needs. We're also reconvening the city manager's police advisory committee. That was a group of residents that came together, and they were crucial in developing Prop 4, and we'll be asking them to help us determine what is a potential new measure for Prop 5. Regardless of funding, the Vancouver Police Department, the officers and staff, will continue to work with our community to preserve life, protect property, and enhance livability. As we consider further measures to fund public safety services, we remain dedicated to the premise that previous voter-approved measures like Prop 2 for the fire and emergency services are propositions that helped our community. Over the past 2 years, Prop 2 has enabled the hiring of 40 additional staff members. In addition to including Truck 10 on the east side and the squad program at stations 1, 2, and 6, the enhancements have more effectively distributed the call load, allowing engine companies to focus on higher priority and critical calls. So far, early 2025 data shows that the response times in these areas have decreased by 5% from last year, and system-wide, our combined city and county area responses have improved 6% over 2024. And we're designing a retrofit on Station 8, planning to replace Station 3 and 6. And while you don't see the physical work right now out there at those sites, they are in significant future improvements that are on the papers, getting permits and everything else. So while the community has invested in fire and emergency services through Prop 2 and considerable volunteer hours, we rely on grants. And over the last few years, fire alone has received $5 million in grants. The grants, particularly those from FEMA, are critical in purchasing equipment, training emergency personnel, especially in hazardous materials, and protecting the public with our ongoing success in community education and all of those smoke alarms that we would be happy to help put in your home. Community safety comes in many forms, and it just isn't the police and the fire services. Those are essential. But there are other components to a safe community. Well-maintained roads, ensuring the safety of pedestrians and cyclists, planning for our future development, and then resiliency in the face of climate change and many more items. Clean, safe drinking water is critical in our community's health and well-being. Last year, we received $25 million for water safety improvements, which is largely focused on the PFAS. The city has remained committed to addressing PFAS in the water supply and implementing long-term elimination measures. We've been testing and reporting levels for the last 5 years, and we started a quarterly testing and reporting program. We're investing in a filtration system that uses granular activated charcoal to remove PFAS, from our drinking water, and it's one of the most studied and effective methods of removing it. Water Station 14 has consistently had the highest sampling rate of all the water stations, so we'll be starting that construction on the new filtration system this summer on Station 14. All of our efforts are on track to meet the EPA implementation deadline of 2029 for PFAS treatment solutions. And as we focus on our community's safety and quality of life, we must also remember that this extends to the unhoused members of our community. The City Council's emergency declaration on homelessness reached its first year mark in 2024. And you continue to tell us that it's an issue of importance for you. You've come to the council, you've written to us, you attended forums, you completed the most recent community survey, and you told us that it's the most important issue for you and one that you want your local government to do something about. We heard you. And at the same time, addressing homelessness and its impact both on the housed and the unhoused is complex. And again, no one solution exists. Addressing homelessness isn't a one-time effort, but a sustained and evolving commitment. It's interconnected with policies, strategies, partnerships, programs, and is required to drive outcomes now and into the long term. Just because something is hard, though, doesn't mean we can't make it happen. We can't show progress, and we are. When we originally created our first Safe Stay community back in 2021, it was intended to pilot a supportive space for people experiencing homelessness. And because of its effectiveness, the City Council ratified extensions of the duration of Safe Stay Community Sites 1 and 2. It will allow us to continue helping more individuals take the important steps from unhoused into hopefully permanent homes without waiting outdoors for so long. In 2024, 112 people graduated into housing from a safe stay or a safe park. And our 4 safe stays have served 424 individuals over these last 3 years. But there is still not enough shelter beds for those who remain outside unsheltered. And again, this impacts the housed and the unhoused. And the consequences can be deadly for the unhoused, because in 2024, 54 individuals who were unhoused died in Vancouver. and that is unacceptable. We need to have the capacity to get people inside. One way we did this in 2024 was to expand the winter shelter capacity by using our own city buildings to provide safe and warm shelter for those who needed it. And over the winter months, we sheltered more than 175 individuals, many of them in the basement of the old library. The winter shelter also helped families stay together in the evening. And in many cases, the availability of these shelters was the only reason some families with children could remain together each night over the winter. The winter shelters were at capacity all season. And to state the obvious, we need more shelter. In 2025, the city will continue working on a bridge shelter. It's not a shelter under a bridge. It is a shelter that bridges between tent and more permanent housing. This type of facility is critical in helping fill that gap in our local safety net. This service-rich space will provide the gap between homelessness and housing, and with added shelter capacity and wraparound care. And we're thanking the county to join with us. With a bridge shelter, we can help more people move through the continuum of care to stable and permanent housing. And last year, we made great progress. We have an experienced operator, Do Good. They're on board to help us work on the shelter's design and scope. We acquired the property and spent time with the surrounding neighbors and businesses to understand their needs, and will continue to meet with them to ensure the shelter is an asset to the area, just as our safe stays have been. At the core of our response to homelessness is our HEART team. If you're a member of the HEART team, would you wave to us? There they are. The Homeless Assistance and Resources team. It got a much-needed expansion with a very generous donation of $1.9 million from the Community Foundation's Ed and Dolly Lynch Fund. And that donation increased the size of the team directly working on this issue and funded up to 8 outreach workers for 2 years. So thank you to that fund. In 2024, HEART worked with VPD and Public Works and conducted 48 camp cleanups and removed more than 400 tons of solid waste from public property. Dear landlords, please do not bring us your couches and your treadmills and your microwaves. We do not need them. We have places that you can recycle them, and it's not in the city of Vancouver on the sides of streets and in Bridge Creek. Also in 2024, HEART trained our police department on effective ways to respond to situations involving the unhoused and citing them into our community court. And we understand that not all residents have agreed with the city's approach to homelessness, but nonetheless, we are dedicated to finding long-term solutions that consider the needs and concerns of both the housed and the unhoused in Vancouver. So let's talk about housing. Tied to the homelessness crisis is the need for affordable housing. And the lack of affordable housing not only exacerbates moving from homelessness to housing, but it also creates instability and insecurity, as many individuals and families find themselves cost-burdened and grappling with making ends meet. By staying focused on the affordable housing shortage, we can make significant strides towards alleviating one of the root causes of homelessness and providing a pathway to more equitable, reliable, and sustainable housing for all community members. While Vancouver has focused on increasing housing production and affordability for many years, we're still falling short of the goal that has been set on us of 2,500 housing units every year for 10 years. We are making progress through our Housing Action Plan and the voter-approved Proposition 3, which supports the Affordable Housing Fund, however. Through that housing fund, more than 1,500 units were rented, 121 households received assistance, and 38 shelter beds supported. And the fund also started a new program to support home buyers. $1 million was awarded to support 20 home ownership opportunities for people with low to moderate incomes and supported our first home buyers. We also saw $5 million of investments in affordable housing projects that came to fruition with Lincoln Place 2, Laurel Manor, and those cute, beautiful little tiny homes on O Street. They will meet the specific needs of vulnerable populations, such as those exiting homelessness, people with health challenges, people in recovery, and our seniors. We also learned that 3 new projects received $1.33 million in grant awards from the Department of Commerce from the Connecting Housing to Infrastructure program. Yay. In 2024, we received 13 awards that provided more than $30 million for housing infrastructure development and energy efficiency improvements, and $21.5 million for the Heights District and the development of the Grand Loop. So you'll notice that I've been mentioning several grants this evening, and Vancouver takes pride in bringing your tax dollars back from the state and back from the federal level to our community to address and work on your priorities. Just in 2024, the city landed 58 new grants worth $88 million, leading to a record high of 197 grants worth more than $218 million being managed by the city. So we have received some questions about future grants and federal funding of city projects and programs. And so we'll offer just a little bit of a perspective on the ambiguity around federal funding and grants that we rely on. Administrations come and go. And many of the grants and fundings we pursue have always spanned multiple administrations and the ensuing shift in priorities that accompany them. But we will continue to work on ambitious projects that support the community and Vancouver's growth and development, and that is not going to stop despite what happens at the federal level. And I appreciate having our representatives from the senators with us this evening, because we continue to work with them and they advocate for us to ensure that Vancouver's interests, needs, and priorities are being met the best they can at that federal level.
What does that mean for Columbia River?
Hang on. Everyone in this room knows Vancouver has a lot to offer with destination areas like our waterfront and downtown. And the diversity of the Fourth Plain Corridor, the new mixed-use commercial and residential neighbors such as the ones under development, not just in downtown and the waterfront development, but out east in the Vancouver Innovation Center and in the Heights. And we also have Clark College and Washington State University, Vancouver, that continue to offer opportunities for lifelong learning and job training. And all of this, combined with our favorable tax and business climate, our growing talent base, our high quality of life, it makes us an attractive place for businesses and those who want to live here. And because of these advantages, our city is experiencing significant growth. We have cemented our place as the Southwest Washington's economic engine, and we can't take that for granted. To stay competitive, we must be intentional about economic development and ensure opportunities for all residents, which is the priority of the community and the city. So last year, we started developing the city's first economic development strategy. We gathered leaders representing diverse communities and business sectors to form what we call the Community Leaders Steering Committee. They help shape the long-term economic vision, initiatives, and investments that include pathways to quality jobs, reducing barriers, strengthening support for small businesses, investing in neighborhood commercial districts, and positioning Vancouver as an inclusive center for innovation and entrepreneurship. Our commitment to economic prosperity for all is more than words, is becoming a reality. And our efforts to foster a thriving local economy are already in motion with numerous impactful projects underway. And before we take a look at this video and take a closer look at some of those projects that are contributing, I want to thank our partnership with the Port of Vancouver. So commissioners, thank you for being here and working with us. Let's see the video.
The Waterfront Gateway project will be encompassing a 6.4-acre site, including the field behind City Hall, as well as the parking lot across the street. It'll bring high-quality public space, housing, retail, and to connect the vibrance and activity that we've been seeing in the waterfront through and connect that to downtown. This corner of the City Hall parking lot will be the first phase of the project. It will be 95-unit affordable housing complex. The rest of the development will be progressing probably a year afterwards and will likely bring another 300 to 400 units of housing.
We're really excited about the Main Street Promise reconstruction project. This project will reconstruct Main Street from 5th Street at the south end all the way up to 15th Street at the north end, putting in new water, sewer lines, reconstructing the roadway, reconstructing sidewalks, making them wider.
So this project has been led by the community for the community over the course of about 3 years of public outreach. From these public outreach opportunities, we identified that Main Street needs to be safe, it needs to be accessible, and it needs to be connected.
Key component of this project was doing this work and keeping the businesses open, keeping their customers moving.
Main Street will have a curbless condition, it will have overhead decorative lighting. There'll be wider areas for businesses to spread out their outdoor seating, more trees, new public art.
So the idea is that we completely transform this corridor into a facility that brings many, many more customers to the businesses and really makes those businesses thrive.
So this is the former Tower Mall site, which is the site of the Heights District. It's about 64 acres in size. It will be redeveloped. This will bring 2,000 housing units, new shops, restaurants, 100,000 square feet of ground floor retail, a whole new safe street network, 2 large open spaces, parks, civic plaza. This is the first phase of private development. These are 3 sites along Mill Plain here. All 3 sites will bring almost 500 residential units that will be affordable to people. Sites will also have some ground floor retail and kind of community space. I think that's amazing to create a new space that is inclusive for everyone as to live and work and play.
So we're out here on Southeast 1st Street here on the east side of Vancouver. It's been an old farm-to-market road, 2-lane road with no sidewalks, no streetlights. We're transforming it into an urban arterial. We've already completed the first phase to the west of here. We're now completing this final phase. The project is one of many complete streets projects that we do now here in the city to make them safe and accessible for all users. We'll have sidewalks, we'll have bike lanes that are completely separate from the roadway. We're trying to facilitate a better connection between the Columbia Tech Center master plan development to the south of us and the Section 30 master plan development to the north of us. And this will really help to facilitate development.
So this is Section 30. It's over 500 acres of largely undeveloped land that the city annexed in 2008 with the hope of creating more opportunity for job creation and mixed-use development. HP is building their new campus to the south, and then we're expecting significant new residential development to the north with potentially over 1,500 new housing units over the next decade. It's a vision that we're happy to finally see come to reality.
There indeed is so much to be proud of and many reasons to be hopeful for our city's future. And as we continue to build on our successes, it's important to recognize the unique aspects of our community that brings us together. We also want to take a moment to hear from some of our fellow residents about one of the unique but perhaps misunderstood pieces of this city's identity.
Can I ask you a few questions about this? Do you know what that is?
I don't.
Have you seen that before? Have any guess what it might be? Any idea what it might be?
It seems like a big and cluttered design. What kind of bird is that?
Good question.
It's the city flag. I like it.
This is the City of Vancouver flag.
Oh, it is? Interesting. Okay.
I mean, I'm not quite sure why there's a white bird in the middle of it.
Vancouver is pretty, like the text is pretty busy here too.
But if I do that, does that help a little bit? You'd probably never seen it before.
Nah, never. I didn't even know there was a flag.
It's a little off. The asymmetry doesn't quite fit with the rest of the symmetry that it does clearly have going on. To me, this doesn't say anything particular about Vancouver. I want to think of something that's very specific to here.
I think a good idea would be to find what symbolizes Vancouver, what makes Vancouver special, like what makes Vancouver Vancouver, you know?
So the flag behind me, if you have not seen it in a while, the community and the city have undergone tremendous change and growth since that flag was adopted 32 years ago. People think it's supposed to be an eagle with a seagull's head. So if our flag is to symbolize our community, it should represent our shared values, aspirations, and pride for what makes Vancouver special. It should also follow best practices for meaningful and effective flag design. And like all the projects we work on, it's better with your participation. So we're opening a design competition to create the city's next flag. And we invite you to reflect on Vancouver's future and consider what symbolizes and represents our community. In a time of uncertainty, rallying together around what unites us is so important. And you can learn more about the design competition and how to enter on the city's website. So as I've said, Vancouver has so much to be proud of, and another point of pride is having a national historic site in the city's core. Not many cities in the United States have a national park. I mention this because Fort Vancouver is commemorating 200 years since it was founded in 1825. And of course, this allowed Vancouver to be founded in 1825, for it to develop and eventually grow into the community we know today. To recognize this bicentennial and to honor the founding of the fort in Vancouver, as well as the Indigenous people who established the first communities, we've partnered with Visit Vancouver, the Greater Vancouver Chamber, the National Park Service, and Friends of Fort Vancouver to create a community event pass, like a passport, to encourage residents and visitors to explore and learn about Vancouver. And of course, there are prizes. So download the pass at the Visit Vancouver website and start exploring the fort and all that Vancouver has to offer before the special date of November 8. So in closing, you have been trusting us to make decisions and set policy and steward tax dollars, but we don't do this alone. Everything we work on is driven by the priorities that you have identified, focusing on the issues where you seek progress, innovation, answers, and solutions. And when you use your voice, we listen. We may not always agree on how to get there, but doing what is best for our community is our North Star. There's so much to take pride in now and into the future. The state of our city is still strong, and it gets stronger every time you testify before City Council, attend a meeting, write us an email, pick up a phone, volunteer, or mail us a letter. Together, we are shaping a vibrant and resilient Vancouver where every voice matters and counts, regardless of the uncertainty around us. Thank you for your ongoing commitment and support, and let's continue to work together to build a brighter future for all of Vancouver. Thank you.